Hey, what's up guys? So I want to explain to you
I chose Wix for my business because of its massive scope for functionality and freedom of creation. Being able to
how financial markets are very similar to casinos. And I want to use the game of roulette to elucidate this point. So the game of roulette is a simple table game where there's a wheel and you roll a ball onto the wheel, and the wheel has red and black slots on it. And you can bet on red or black, and they're both roughly 50-50 to hit. So what the casino will do is they'll have this roll history, this little board behind the roulette wheel that tells you the history of whether it landed on red or black for the last 10 or so rolls. And there's actually no point to this because each roll is an independent event. Just like when you flip coins, the odds of getting heads or tails is 50-50. Just because there's a history where I tell you the last 10 coin flips were heads, that has no bearing on future coin flips. So it's just meant to mislead and to exploit the human psychological fallacy that, well, there's two separate fallacies humans tend to have, and it's to exploit both. One is the fallacy of thinking, well, something is trending, so therefore more of that's going to come. So with the coin flips, if there's a lot of heads flipping, then people will think, oh yeah, I'll lean heads. I can see the pattern forming. It's a lot. This is a head-heavy coin flip session. And with the roulette wheel, they might say, oh, it's landing red a lot. The red is hot. Red has momentum. We've got to bet on red. That's one psychological flaw people have. And the other is the opposite. It is more of a mean reversion way of thinking, which is we're due for black. There's been too many reds. It's pent up on the red side and it needs to revert back to black. And that's another psychological flaw. They're both wrong because the truth is they're independent events. The past history has no bearing on the future. So the odds are exactly 50-50. Now, how does all this apply to the stock market? You'll get these stock trading gurus who push the mantra of the trend is your friend. And their belief is that if the market is trending one way, it's likely to keep trending that way, which is not true. Then you'll have another school of thought, which is the mean reversion school of thought, which is to think that the market's trending that way, so it's got to revert back to where it was before. That's also a flawed way of thinking. The trading guru trying to sell courses to you is exploiting this psychological flaw in the same way the casino is exploiting the psychological flaw, which is to believe that there is a pattern forming, the trend is your friend, or to believe that the opposite. The trend has been happening too much, so it needs to revert. And they're both flawed. So that's the first point I wanted to explain. Next, I wanted to explain to you about the martingale betting system with the roulette wheel. So you can just look up the Wikipedia entry for martingale betting system. Let's say you just bet $10 on red, and if you lose, you bet $20 on red. If you lose, you bet $40 on red, and so on. You just keep doubling each time. And what ends up happening is that you'll either just win one of those, or if you lose and you keep doubling down, you'll eventually win and make back everything you lost and $10 more. And so this martingale betting system is actually plus EV if you have an infinite amount of capital and if there's no maximum bet size at the casino. And so some people have close to an infinite amount of capital, and the casino doesn't want to deal with that. So that's why they put a maximum bet size on the roulette wheel, because they don't want to deal with people applying this martingale betting system. You have to ask yourself why.
Wait, what again? What's that with y'all boys?
We got Whooshi in the chat.
What y'all about to do?
why would they put a maximum bet size on the roulette wheel with a 0 and double 0?
We got Wooshi in the chat.
Favorite.
Shout out Wooshi in the chat.
Size on the roulette wheel, eventually win and make back everything you lost and $10 more. And so this martingale betting system is actually plus EV if you have an infinite amount of capital and if there's no maximum bet size at the casino. And so some people have close to an infinite amount of capital and the casino doesn't want to deal with that. So that's why they put a maximum bet size on the roulette wheel, because they don't want to deal with people applying this martingale betting system. And the casino doesn't want to deal with that. So that's why they put a maximum bet size on the roulette wheel, because they don't want to deal with people applying this martingale betting system. You know, you have to ask yourself, why would they put a maximum bet size? On the roulette wheel with the 0 and double 0, they're a slight favorite regardless, so it should be in their interest for for you to bet as large as you want to. In case you were curious, that's why they put a maximum bet size on the roulette wheel. Now, how does this apply to trading? There was a trading firm I worked at where every trader at the firm was applying this martingale betting system, but they were applying it to the volatility of the options. So for the layman who may be watching this, with options, which is a financial derivative, there's something called the implied volatility, which is just how volatile the stock or whatever you're trading is. And so that volatility level, you know, it might be like 16 and it'll tick up to 17, 18, or it might tick down 14, 13. And so volatility tends to be mean reverting. There is a historical volatility for a particular product. In times of panic, the volatility might go up because the product is whipping around more as there's uncertainty in the market. And then once that uncertainty kind of settles, the implied volatility will come back down to closer to the historical averages. There is a parallel here with the martingale betting system where you can martingale the vol. And so vol is shorthand for volatility. So when you're trading any particular product, whether it be like the S&P 500 options, let's say its historical average is like 14 vol. If it starts to tick up 15, 16, 20, traders will get short options in order to bet that it'll come back down. And then if it goes up 25, they'll double down. And if it goes 30, they'll quadruple down. So they're martingaling the vol. And so this is a system that works most of the time until it doesn't, because you have a limit in capital. So you just can't keep infinitely doubling down. But here's the thing about being a trader at a trading firm. At these trading firms, you don't have to put up your own capital. So you just have to survive one bonus cycle applying a strategy such as this. So you're taking extra risk, and it falls on the owners of the firm and ultimately the OCC. So if you just survive 1 or 2 bonus cycles, you're getting paid out on insurance that you yourself may never had any plans on, paying out claims on the insurance. So it is a free money strategy that traders at these trading firms were executing. And so it was a wild time. Every trader, let's say the average amount of money they could extract from the market was $1 million. They were all making $5 to $10 million because there was all this extra money they were making by martingaling the vol. And everyone, I think, understood that this is a strategy that could lead to blowout, but they didn't care because it would just fall on the owner. And they just had to get away with 1 bonus cycle, ideally 2 or 3 bonus cycles. And I would say on average, a product has a wild volatility move where the vol spikes to 70, 80 vol, like once a decade. So you can get away with doing this for about 10 years before it blows out on you, and you'll get paid out on nine big fat bonuses before it blows out and you give it all back. And it doesn't matter because it's not your money ultimately. So yeah, people would do this. Every single trader was doing this at the firm and making outsized bonuses. I thought, the owner of this firm is an idiot. How does he not understand the statistics of what's happening here? And he didn't even have a risk manager, and he certainly had the money to afford a risk manager. I just thought he was foolish. But then I thought about it later and I realized that actually he's in on the scam, because he's well aware that everyone is martingaling the vol, and he himself was martingaling the vol on the larger products that he was trading. And what he was ultimately doing was the same thing, but to the OCC, which sits above him as a trading firm that's established as an LLC. See, the LLC stands for Limited Liability Corporation. And so he understood ultimately that the flaw in the design of the system here is that margin requirements were too low for most of these options on futures contracts. So if you can get away with being short options and applying these sort of martingale betting systems, you could collect free money selling insurance. And if and when the large event came where you had to pay out on claims on the insurance, you would just file for bankruptcy on your LLC and stuff the OCC with the difference. And ultimately, my understanding is that that's what happened. They got away with this for a good decade until the pandemic hit and the market exploded. And the VIX normally hangs out in the teens, and the VIX shot up to like 75, 80. And ultimately that blew out this particular firm. The owners of the firm just happened to lose the capital that they had tied up to the firm at that moment. All of the money they pulled out of the firm the last 10 years getting away with this, they kept it, they pocketed it. And all of the traders who were running this martingale betting system, they all got their cut, their 20% cut of the bonus. And so everyone got away with it except for the OCC. They suddenly had a half $1 billion bill. So it is ultimately a loophole in capitalism. It's the same concept as too big to fail. Governments want to incentivize individuals to start businesses, and so they give them generous tax breaks, and they structure businesses in such a way to incentivize business creation. But if you go into a business fully understanding that you are going to blow out in a massive way, but you can collect profits from it up until that point, and then if and when you blow out, you just file for bankruptcy, it doesn't matter if you've lost more in that 1 year than you've made in the entire history of your business. You have a cap to how much you have to pay out in your LLC, your limited liability corporation. And you already got to collect all the money you pulled out of your business the previous 10 years. So ultimately, I was naive. The owner of this firm fully understood what he was doing. And I should have been joining along with them, martingaling the ball. but I guess I was trying to be a good citizen, and and that's on me. So lesson learned, you know? So I hope you learned something about the parallels between the stock market and casinos. They're quite similar, and a lot of the same concepts apply to both. And if you have any investing strategies or trading strategies you'd like me to go over, I'm happy to act as rumble strips for you. Just jump on the Patreon and Discord, and happy to have a chat with you. Take it easy.
Hello, couple. Hi, couple. I have a question about just your work. I got exposed to your work about 8 or 9 months ago, and it's truly been a transformative process. And I have nothing but gratitude for everything that you've done. However, what has come along with that has just been a great deal of turmoil in learning about what I have pretended to want this whole time. I was wondering if you could speak to any downside of exposing.
Well, there's no turmoil. Is if one has been chasing something for 30, 40 years, and then one day somehow they realize that what they've been chasing is a ghost, or they've been chasing a shadow, or they've been chasing their own tail, or that everything that they've ever known has been untrue. That absolutely will create turmoil. And for another individual, it may create relief. For some, it may create turmoil in the beginning and then relief later on. For some, it will create turmoil and turmoil forever because they cannot get over the fact that they wasted 40 years of their life. And every one of those is understandable, and none of them is right or wrong. But that is a very common thing, and it's perfectly reasonable to go through life and be told that X is X and Y is Y and Z is Z, and life is structured in this way, and this is who you are, and this is what you should get, and if you pursue this, you will get that, and if you practice these things, you will get joy or happiness or freedom and success or money, and if you don't do these things, then that will really help you, and if you make sure that you're better at these things. So the human being has an entire agenda, an entire curriculum before him, and he has practiced that agenda and that curriculum from the morning routines to the evening meditation to the yoga and the psychotherapy to reading self-help and the austerities and to lighting incense and practicing pujas and all of these things that a human being does. And if one day, if he genuinely realizes, not because he believes someone, but because he explores for himself, and it manages to hit home somehow that he just wasted everything, that it was all wrong, it was all lies. Naturally, that's going to begin or bring upon an enormous amount of turmoil. And quite frankly, one could say that perhaps on a subconscious level, that the reason that humans do not tend to seek truth intentionally is because of the fear of what they might find. It is not, as you have discovered, a pleasant thing to find that you just to hit home somehow that you just wasted everything, that it was all wrong, it was all lies. Naturally, that's going to begin or bring upon an enormous amount of turmoil. And quite frankly, one could say that perhaps on a subconscious level, that the reason that humans do not tend to seek truth intentionally is because of the fear of what they might find. It is not, as you have discovered, a pleasant thing to find that you have wasted 30 years of your life, 40 years of your life, 50 years of your life that you will never get back. That is more than a slap in the face. And that isn't something that a given human being really, it's possible that some never get over that.
Get my money and dance.